Everybody, you're going to be in for a great treat with this new guest. This guy is Jesse Iwuji. He has a story to tell.
That story is coming up right after the break. Have you ever thought, why is my wireless bill so expensive? Well, now you can do something about that. So I want to tell you about Mint Mobile, with whom I'm partnering for today's video. Now, you've probably heard about Mint Mobile already. Maybe you've seen the hilarious ads from Ryan Reynolds, who by chance is also an owner of Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile's service is awesome. For starters, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15, and you don't have to sacrifice coverage, speed, or even data. They're also built on the nation's largest 5G network, which is fantastic. How do they do it? It's real easy. They keep their costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and the salespeople, and everybody wins. Switching to Mint is super easy too. The whole process only takes 15 minutes, and if you get stuck, Mint has a great customer service team to help you through it. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. So if you want to get great wireless service at a great price from a great company, visit my link, mintmobile.com/Craig, or click the link in my description right below the video. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning fast 5G and a free mobile hotspot. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as just 2 lines. So what are you waiting for? Get hooked up with Mint Mobile today.
I met you when Cars and Coffee.
Yeah, South OC, Cars and Coffee. I think that's the first time we met in person. I think we had probably spoke a little bit online prior to that, because the first time I ever saw you online was when you started basically talking about, hey, I'm the guy behind, pretty much Fast and Furious cars, being the technical director and all that stuff. And I think that's the first time I saw you. And then eventually when we connected, it was just good to finally meet you.
Yeah, it's fun to see people in real life when you're talking to them on Instagram. I just dropped my wife's Audi out to the service center, and the lot porter goes, "I know you." And it's always funny to me, or crazy to me, that somebody looks at me and says, "Oh, I watch your content." Yeah. What's the matter? You don't have cable TV anymore?
Exactly.
The only thing if I don't watch. Anyway, so let's go through your history, because you're not just a car fan, a car connoisseur. You have a long career in the United States Navy, yeah?
Yeah. 13 years now. Yeah.
What's your MOS?
So right now I'm a surface warfare officer. So for those who don't know, surface warfare officers were on the ships. So in my first 4 years in the Navy, I was on 2 different ships. My first ship was a minesweeper. My second ship was an amphib. So I went from a 224-foot long ship with only 80-something people on board to this massive 600-plus foot long ship with 800 people on board, Navy and Marine Corps. And I've been on deployments with these ships. I've gone overseas. I've gone everywhere. It's been amazing. And now I'm doing more shore-based stuff with Naval Beach Group 1.
So surface warfare, you're manning the 5-inch gun, or
5-inch gun.
A little bigger.
Ships.
A little bigger. What are they using now? Like Mark 45?
So there's all different kind of small arms weapons on the ships, but the 5-inch gun is kind of our big gun now, even though it's not anywhere near as big as on the old battleships. Like when you look at like the USS Iowa and some of the other battleships, those ships, they have these massive cannons on there, and there's no need for that anymore. The 5-inch gun has a very powerful round. It has very good range, and it can take out whatever targets you need. So they've downsized things. You don't have to have this massive stick anymore. You can have a smaller stick, and also too, really, what's the point, right? Just fire a missile.
Right, exactly. Right behind me, do you see that Arizona being built?
Oh, yeah.
So
there
I
you
have
go.
a bunch of 1-350 models here. My dad was in the Navy. My first book that I ever read was the United States Navy when I was 8 years old. So, yeah, I'm a Navy guy.
Yeah.
So I have a Missouri right here.
So there you go.
I'm a Navy fan for a long, long, long time.
Cool.
Okay, so you got that going on. Do you play with the Sea Whiz any long at all?
You know what? So each ship pretty much has their own Sea Whiz, minus the Minesweeper. Minesweeper did not have one. The departments that I was in, on the ships that I was on, my first ship being on the Minesweeper, I was the first lieutenant on that ship, so I dealt with all the deck equipment, so the anchor windlass, the minesweeping gear, all the stuff you could see on the top side of the ship. When I went over to the amphib, I was a force protection officer, so I didn't actually deal with any equipment on board. I dealt with people. I dealt with all the security forces and making sure that we didn't have any terrorists doing anything crazy to the ships, especially when we're pulling into different ports.
So it's an unappreciated endeavor, but if you've ever seen the movie The Caine Mutiny,
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
It's a minesweeper, a DME from World War II.
Yeah,
and it's a great movie. It's a great. I watch all
all
these military movies. It drives my wife crazy because I got my iPhone right here, falling asleep to Band of Brothers or something. And I go to sleep in 2 seconds. As soon as the guns come out, oh, they took the beach already. I'm going to rewind. So you're doing the Navy thing. You're still active duty, yeah?
Well, I'm in the reserves now. So I was active duty from 2010 till 2017. And then I transitioned to the reserves middle of 2017. I've been in the reserves the last 6 years now and plan on doing another 7-ish or so, maybe 8, doing out my 20 years and then being done.
Done. So you get that retirement package and you get to go on your way. You got your health benefits. I hope they're good. And you got time on your hand and you're still a young man.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You're barely in your 40s, if that.
Yeah,
right.
I think I'd be like 42 or 3 or so at that point. Yeah,
and still got lead in the pencil, like my dad used to say.
A lot of lead.
For those people who are not Italian, just take my word. This is a good thing. Anyway, so now you've discovered the car hobby. How long have you been into cars?
Yeah, I've been into cars ever since I was a little kid. I remember back when I was probably about 4 or 5 years old. That was about the first time I could remember me being into cars. I used to watch the show, and I know you know it, Knight Rider. Knight Rider back in the day. So I was like a little kid. I used to see Kit, this talking car, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And since then, I just kind of started falling in love with cars, and throughout my life at that time, my family didn't have that kind of money to really do anything involved with cars, but I still liked it, still watched racing on TV and all that. When I got to college, for me getting to college, I went to the Naval Academy. So I had got recruited to play football at the Naval Academy. So football was my big thing. That was the sport that I was into. That's what I was doing. I played college football at the Division 1A level. And during my off time, especially during the off season and stuff, I would YouTube was still fairly new around that time. This is like 2006, 7, 8, that time frame. People were starting to post a lot more car content on YouTube. So I jump on and I start typing in just different things to learn. But the show that I watched the most on YouTube was Top Gear. And because they just posted all their content there, I learned a lot about cars through that. And then one day I had saw one of the episodes that they did with Ken Block on Top Gear. And I was like, who's this guy? So I was like, man, that was super cool, the video they did. So then I typed in Ken Block's name on YouTube, and then I saw his first Gymkhana video. I'm like, this is super sick. This is with the Subi. And I think by that point, he had already did 2. So I saw 2 of the videos. And then each year, like I kept on seeing, every year he had a new Gymkhana video that he's posting every year. I'm like, man, this is super. So I always stayed in touch with those, and that grew my love for cars. I kept on to follow cars more and more. Once I graduated from the Naval Academy and became an officer in the Navy, I finally had money to actually buy a car, right? So I bought a Dodge Challenger SRT8 at that time. This is when Challengers were new. This is 2010. So, they had just came out a year or 2 before that. So I bought a 2009 Challenger SRT8, made like 425 horsepower. From then, I was like, that's not enough. I got to do more. I think within the first week I bought it, I took it to a drag strip. I did like a 13.7 mile, and I thought it was quick, but I'm like, I need to be faster. So then from there, I started slowly modifying the car, minor bolt-ons, one thing after another, led to camming it, then supercharging it, then building the motor, and so on.
And when did you have your first intersection takeover?
I have never done a takeover. I've always thought it was the most. Takeovers are terrible. Like for the kids out there who are listening to this, I know a lot of people, listen to your content, follow your content from young to old. For those who are listening, don't do that takeover stuff. I know it's a little bit of a thrill or whatever, but you can literally, I hate when people say, oh, there's not enough track events. There's a track event going on every freaking weekend of the year. especially in Southern California and California, period. So if you don't have to be 2 seconds from the track to go to the track, you can go to it if it's an hour away. People are willing to go to takeovers 2 hours away. So, get away from the takeover stuff, go to the track. You can go drifting, especially if you live in SoCal. You can go to Willow Springs and
autocross and
autocross. Parking lot. Yeah, they do all this stuff. So go do it in a safer environment where you're not going to get your car impounded. You're not going to get a ticket. You're not going to do things that are going to ruin your life like right then and then. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, maybe you'll just get a little misdemeanor and this and that. All that stuff counts. Like when you're looking to eventually level up in life and start making real money, like there's a lot of things that you're doing right now, especially with that takeover stuff, that is going to hurt you and break the rest of your life because you're doing stupid stuff right now, especially if you end up getting someone hurt or killed.
Right. Felonies now stay on your record for 7 years. Employers can go back 7 years. It kills you a lot of jobs, and jobs are very scarce at certain ages, 18 to 25, unless you have a college degree or a skill. And then once you get older into your 50s, nobody wants to hire you because, you come from the old days. It depends on the discipline. But, it's a big thing. And it costs you a lot of fortune. Two things that I remember, one from I was in my teens. A friend of mine got busted from running from the cop. It was a felony. They took his car. He had cocaine in the car. Right. This guy went to jail for 2 years. He was still paying on that car, and they confiscated from illegal street racing.
So now his credits hurt bad.
Right. The bank dinged him for 7 years. He had to file bankruptcy, and the kid was 21 years old at that time. And
all that happening at once at that age, and you still got a long life to live and a lot more times you're going to need the bank.
That's it. And then he gets his girlfriend pregnant, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't wish that on anybody, but people think it's cool to be on social media, keeping their Instagram handles right on the backside of their car. They're going to find you in 10 seconds. They do a subpoena with Meta, who owns Instagram, and they get all your data, where you live, your phone number, your date of birth, everything. Everything takes them an hour. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, they're banging at your mom's door because you're probably young enough to still be living at home. Your mom is being pulled out of bed, with her sandals at the end of an assault rifle, a SBR or whatever these guys are carrying in with SWAT teams. It's just not worth it. Watch it on Instagram. Good God.
No, it's not worth it. There are plenty of stuff to go to, track events. You can go drifting, you can go drag racing, you can go road course track events. Even here, Irwindale has a burnout pit every Thursday, right? You literally can go do in front of a crowd of people, right? There's people watching, you can do all that stuff. And so it's just not worth it. I promise you guys, it is not worth it.
And the other thing is, why are people taking the risk just so that some 12-year-old boy is going to take a video of your car and put it on Instagram? Do these people like teenage boys? Is what's going on with that?
Yeah, people are interesting. It is 2023, and there's some weird stuff happening.
In the old days, you drive a fancy car, it's to get a good girlfriend, a good-looking girlfriend. That was the kind of thing going back 20 years ago. But there's a difference between a chick magnet and another word magnet starting with a D, and it rhymes with chick. I'm just going to say that. What are we doing here, people?
Yeah, no, the people who knows? Maybe one day people will learn. I don't know. I know a lot of stuff is getting a lot more strict now as far as like the penalties. Like if you do get caught up, whether you're not even if you're not doing it, you're just watching there. Yeah, it's just it's not worth it. But people are going to do what they do, and they're going to pay the.
So you were one of the right mindset kind of guy. You didn't do that. You got into sports cars, right? Talk about the cars you've owned.
Yeah, so I had bought the Dodge Challenger. Actually, before I even had the Challenger in college, I had a Chrysler 300. Right before that, I had a Mustang. I had a 95 Mustang V6. I think I threw some wheels exhaust on it. That's about it. It wasn't fast. I wasn't doing anything crazy with it. I bought the Chrysler 300, but that was a 6-cylinder as well. I had just exhaust and wheels on it and a couple of little things and a really, really nice sound system.
Please tell me you didn't have spinners.
No spinner. This is right after the spinner's time frame or whatever. But no, I didn't do that because I was more into cars that could go fast. I just didn't have money to buy a fast car, so I bought just something I could just live with at the time. But eventually, I was going to get into real cars, right? So then, once I graduated from college and I could get the Challenger, I got the Challenger SRT8. over the years, built that. I went on deployment 2012 for about 10 months. And during that deployment, I was able to save over $50,000 during that deployment. And for me at that time, because I was so into cars and for whatever reason, I saw my future into cars, I spent a lot of that money, one, paying off every single debt that I had, and then paying off, not paying off, sorry, but putting money into that car. And some people might look at it as crazy, like, oh man, that's not financially smart at all. Why would you put all your money into cars? Well, this is the thing. I had a reason. I had a real mission. It's one thing to put your money into a car just to be cool. It's another thing to put it in because it's leading towards the end goal of where you're really trying to go. And that's what I did. I had a mission. Like I had this dead set mission of really eventually getting into racing, but I knew I had to leapfrog my way. I knew that first I had to establish a brand, a name, and market myself, right? And I knew at the time the only thing I had to market myself with was that Challenger. I was one of the only few people at that time who was building basically a version of the Hellcat. The Hellcats weren't even out yet at that time. So we were basically building what the Hellcat should have been, or what Dodge should have did. Eventually I think they kind of took a note from us and like, people are supercharging these things, building them and making big horsepower, so we should do that. But anyways, we did that before they did it, and I became, I was gaining all this popularity from going to these events. I was doing it the right way. I was going to half-mile events. I was going to the drag strip. We were running all these fast passes. I was the fourth person to ever go 200 miles per hour in a 1 mile, a standing mile, in a Challenger, and I was like I think I was the second person to ever do it and not break. I literally drove 3 hours to Mojave, did the mile. I did 3 runs. I did 199, 200.9 miles per hour, and 199, and then drove all the way home. I did it all in the same tires, the same everything in my street form. The car was making like 900 horsepower to the wheels, but I was able to do it and show that it was possible. So that leapfrogged me to a whole nother level. And at that time I was making YouTube content too, but this was during a time when no one really thought of being a YouTuber. So at that time I didn't think of being a YouTuber. I was just doing content because I was doing cool things. I was putting it on there. And this is back 2013. I was getting like 50,000, 100,000 views on videos and not thinking anything of it. And then I stopped. I got away from it because I started to focus on real racing. And that kind of led me to
the next thing. What?
Yeah, pretty much. And that next
what was the next thing? Yeah.
Yeah. So 2013, I was Challenger, doing all these events, growing my name, brand, all that stuff. And then towards the end of 2013, I bought a C6 Z06 Corvette, and I used it as a daily, right? Because I had the Challenger was a monster, and my C6 Z06 was supposed to be a friendly monster that I could daily. Not that I couldn't daily the Challenger, I could, but I needed something a little bit less brash, right? So I bought the C6 Z06 Corvette, and immediately when I bought it, I was like, man, this car is going to be a car that I can actually turn left and right with really well, right. And it's pretty quick, right? The Challenger was fast, but it really wasn't the best handling car. It actually handled halfway decent, but because I did do some suspension stuff with it too, but it just wasn't the car you really wanted to road course. Right. So when I bought the C6 Z06, I'm like, I could take it on a road course track day. Let me see how it does. So I think within the first 2 weeks I bought it, I literally hit the track with it, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I did like maybe 3 or 4 more events, and they're going well. I was slowly starting to learn, get a little bit better and better. And then it comes into January of 2014, and I was sitting in my room one night, and all of a sudden had this crazy just vision continue to come to me over and over and over, mainly because other people I think were planting the seed in my head. They're just always asking me this question, but I was like, I really like cars. I really like racing. I think it's cool. Why not actually try to take this to the highest level possible? Why not try to become a professional race car driver? And I was sitting there in my room. Once again, I'm sitting in my room, and I had a whiteboard on my wall. I pulled a whiteboard off my wall. I erased whatever was on it, and I just wrote a big goal on it. I said, become a professional race car driver. And from there, I knew now that I had made the decision, now that I wrote it down, now that I was now going to commit myself towards making this happen. And by the way, I'm still active duty at that time in the United States Navy. I had a deployment coming up in like a few months, 5 months from then, but I still was going to make this happen. So I put my whiteboard back on my wall. I immediately started doing research online. I went on Google. I typed in how to become a professional race car driver. I jumped into some forums, and all I was met with was negativity. Everybody was like, you can't do it because you don't come from a racing background. You can't do it because you're not rich, right? Because racing costs a lot of money. You can't do it because your parents aren't rich. They're going to pay for it for you. You can't do it because you're black. You can't do it because you're blah, 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 blah. All this stupid stuff I kept on seeing. I was like, okay, I was getting this vision in my head, seeing myself become a pro driver, and these people are not going to determine my reality. So I knew that this vision was God given, right? Like he was putting it in my mind saying, hey, your deal is done in the future. Like this is what you will become as long as you're willing to put the action every single day, no matter what ups and downs you go through, so that you can actually get there. And I knew, okay, I had to do it. Like, even though I'm met with a wall right now, like walls, you can either break through them, you can go over them, you can go under them, you can go around them. But the one thing you don't let a wall do is keep you standing right there. So I knew I had to continue to push through. So eventually I was like, let me do the research, right? So what gets someone into racing? What keeps them in the racing? What gets them out of racing? So I started piecing together everything. I need funding. I need to build my brand. I need to continue to network. I need to find teams. I need to learn how to drive a race car. I had to start piecing together all the resources necessary to fill all those gaps that were massive gaps at that moment for me. And every single day I was just chipping away from it. And it's crazy how once you have these visions, seeing yourself naturally become something. Once you start putting action towards it every single day, it's crazy how things start lining up. People start coming into your path. Doors start opening that were always there that you just never paid attention to. Now they're opening. And all of a sudden, I went to a car show and I ran into a guy who was racing late model stock cars. He introduced me to his late model team that he was racing with at Irwindale Speedway. That led me towards getting a test with that team. And then eventually, that led me towards eventually trying to go find some sponsorship so I could race with them eventually. While looking for sponsorship, I wasn't finding any sponsorship. But then that led me towards, okay, if no one's going to give me money, then I'm going to go create it myself. And then that led me towards an entrepreneurship route where I started my own business so I can make extra money and pay for my racing. And then you start piecing all these things together. I bought a racing simulator, put it in my room, trained every single night. Every night before I went to bed, I did 100 laps because I kept on telling myself 100 laps a day will keep the doctor away. And that's what I kept on doing.
And the girlfriend's away, yeah.
True. But I kept on doing all these things. I was adding to it, everything I could add to the bucket to continue to pour into this goal and dream, no matter what happened. That's what I did. And along the way, as you're pouring into this bucket to fill it up and eventually get to the goal, like people will start putting holes in that bucket. That bucket will start getting stabbed. It'll start spewing out. Your handle for the bucket might break, whatever. All these bad things will happen along the way. And a lot of people look at it as like, oh man, it's time to quit. But it's during those times when it's time to push forward, when you're at your worst, when you're at the end, when it seems like all is lost, that's when you continue going. You just take a step again. Just keep going. Like, what's going to stop you? If you're not getting killed, then why are you going to stop? Right. And that's what I kept on doing. I ran out of money so many times. And when I say I ran out of money, I'm talking about a few dollars in my bank account left. And I have a race coming up in a few weeks. How am I going to pay $5,000 and my bills and all this stuff? And somehow, some way, because I continue to put positive, creative energy towards it every day, that's what led me towards eventually continue to work my way up. And then it's kind of one thing after another, year after year, slowly working my way up the ranks of NASCAR.
All right. That's not easy to do, like you said. If you're not rich, you don't have a last name like Earnhardt or Petty, right? Yeah. Or you have a rich grandfather. Yeah. What's that phrase? How to become a millionaire in racing? You start as a billionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Start off as a billionaire, you'll end up as a millionaire.
Now, years ago, when I was a young lad, I was working for NGK Spark Plugs. It's a Japanese company, so they rotate your jobs every 2 years. One time I got assigned to be motorsports marketing director, and I used to get all these sponsorship proposals mailed to the offices before the internet. I mean, we were building our first website in 1994. Doing AOL. Flash, right? Yeah. Flash.
You got mail.
Flash. You got mail. Anyway, so I'm reading some great sponsorship proposals, but there's just really no chance. And they're coming to NGK for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. And back then there was only a few people we were sponsoring with any kind of money. The Honda teams, Indy, NHRA, Top Fuel, because they all used our spark plugs, and they were going through a lot of spark plugs. So, but I'm reading these sponsor decks, sponsorship proposals. It's heartbreaking. These people are so into it, and this is before digital cameras, so they're literally sending pictures in like Polaroids in the envelope and all that kind of stuff. And you see a whole family. You can see that this is their whole life. The dirt cars with the big wings on the top, modified.
Yeah. Right? The sprint cars, yeah.
sprint cars. These guys were all about it. And their whole family, their grandfathers, it's all about it. And my favorite one, I got one from a guy from South Florida. He says, "We have the biggest snowmobile drag racing team in all of South Florida." That is definitely a true story. I have no doubt of that.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. But
so here is a guy who just wanted to get some of the basics handled. You know, he used that on such a tight budget that he can't even afford the spark plugs. So yeah, we sent him a case and some apparel and everything. He wrote us letters every race. I did this and I did this. Here's a picture, a blurry Polaroid picture.
That's so. I never thought about that. Like once we got to somewhat of the digital age, right? It wasn't even digital. That's still not digital at that time. I mean, but once we got to that age where people could send that kind of stuff fairly easy, I just never thought about how those times were. Like obviously I started my hunt when we had email, we had pictures, but even when I started my hunt for sponsorship, I mean, at that time, you're still, for the most, I mean, you can use your cell phones for some stuff, but you still had to rely on like really professional cameras.
And most people didn't know how to take the tape out of their camera and edit it, you know, because you have to have an expensive program called, Final Cut Pro or Premiere, which was very expensive, but a lot of people don't have time to do that. Most people who are working under the hood are not working on the keyboard.
Exactly.
Yeah, so two different disciplines. Not today. You have to be a jack of all kind of trades. Yeah. But I remember those days. Back in those days, magazine ads.
Yeah, magazine ads. That was huge. Back then.
Well, I remember when we were doing Too Fast, Too Furious, we were trying to get people to show up to be extras on set. And the director said, "Why don't we put an ad in Super Street?" Well, number one, it's going to come out 3 months after you filmed. Okay, that's number one. Okay. Well, why don't you go onto the internet?
Yeah.
Where? MySpace? There was no Facebook. There was no Facebook. There was no Instagram. There was no TikTok. All they had is the car formers, Beamer formers.
The forums. So yeah, the forums and like MySpace, I would say MySpace was still brand new around that for Fast and Furious. Yeah, it's super brand new.
Brand new.
But the forums though had been around. Like I think that was like the way people really kind of talked was there.
Yep, I always use my real name because I hate people who are keyboard warriors.
Yeah, I'm the same. I always use my real name. I got it in there. I want people to know who I am. I'm not gonna go hide or whatever. It's like, hey.
I used to get, well, even recently, this isn't Craig Lieberman. Craig Lieberman would not be on the internet. I say on the top, the line that I use is, "The only thing more pathetic than being Craig Lieberman is pretending to be Craig Lieberman." Yes, it's really me. Nowadays, it's much easier. I'm working with Freddie Hunt, the son of James Hunt, who was the Formula One championship. The movie Rush.
Yeah.
So his son is back into racing now. He was in it for a little bit, and he stepped out for a while. He was doing polling, and now he's back. And now we're trying to get him to Le Mans.
Oh yeah,
that's his goal. Yeah. So I've literally just got done doing the pitch deck for the producers to get this thing going. So get a documentary about him winning 24-hour Le Mans for the championship and the European Le Mans series. And you can do it now more easily, especially he's got a name.
Yeah.
But I'm telling him, when we're working the social media stuff,
you
have to be approachable.
Oh,
and everybody's got to like you. You're very likable, so it should be very easy for you. But you're not just a racing car guy. You have sports cars too. Now, I learned recently through your social media channel, not MySpace, that you were apparently overseas doing your best imitation of Jeremy Clarkson driving around Fujiyama. Right? Why don't you tell me that story? And
yeah. So my friend Jay, avid GTR fanatic. I mean, he knows like anytime I don't know something about GTRs, I hit him up like, "Hey, tell me about this," and he'll go on. Anytime I get on the phone call with him, there will not be a call that's less than 30 minutes. Like we will go on and on and on. But it's always good stuff though, because good positive energy. He's awesome. I've known Jay since 2013 or so. The funny thing is, he's the one who actually taught me about how to grow on social media, even though you'll never know what he looks like on social media because he never posts his face, and he's not like he's not like this massive social media page, whatever. He just knows it. He knows how these algorithms work. He knows how these things, because he studies different things. He's able to key in on what works, what doesn't work. And he's just like really good at stuff. He taught me a long time ago, like back in 2013 and 14, he had he grew a 10,000 followed page on Facebook to an 800 something thousand follow page on Facebook within like less than a year. Like that's what he knew. And this wasn't bots or fake people. These are all real people, real followers, real everything. I mean, the guy just knows what he's doing. He took a step away from it to go into like real stuff in life. He's actually an attorney now, so he had to go to law school and do all that. So he kind of took a step away. He came back into it now. He's now more into the car scene and all that stuff. But Jay's super awesome. But back in 2019, he had bought an R35 GTR. And I remember him telling me about, I just bought a 35 GTR. I'm like, that's so awesome, because I've always loved GTRs, even though I'm a huge Chevy guy. I do like the Skyline GTRs. And I was like, man, I want to get a GTR too. But at that time, I didn't have the extra cash to buy a 35. So I was like, okay, what do I have the money for at this time? And at that time, 32s were actually still fairly reasonable. Mm-hmm. So I went on the Facebook and I found this super clean 32 that had the modifications that I would want on the car. Everything was done the way exactly I would want it. So I hit the guy up. It was already imported here legally. And I was like, hey, I want to buy this car. He only lived like 30, 40 minutes from me. So I went and checked it out. I was like, this thing is absolutely epic. I bought it for like 32,000 or so. Wow. And it only had 60 something thousand miles at that time on it. So I was like, man, this is a great deal. Got it. Great car. So I had my 32, Jay had his 35. And then time starts going on. He buys a 33 and then he buys a 32. And then I'm like, man, you got like all of them except the 34. And then me and him just always talked about these 34s because that is our dream car, right? For JDM stuff, that's my dream car. I got other dream cars in other realms, but for the JDM side, like the 34 was like the pinnacle for me. So me and him like made this pact. We're like, hey, one day we're gonna buy 34 GTRs and go experience them in Japan. And this was back in, once again, 2019, 2020, or 2020 at that point. And then fast forward a few years, we get to 2022. It's around late spring of 2022. He hits me up and he's like, hey, I'm interested in getting a 34 like pretty quick. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, you're not gonna buy a 34 right now. It's like, man, these things are like more money, because we told each other we're never gonna buy one if it goes over $100,000. We're like, it's so stupid. We're never gonna buy it if it goes over 100. They all went over 100, and then we kind of like almost quit on the journey. Like, they didn't quit. We're just kind of like just hurt. We're like, damn it, So we just kind of let it go. But then all of a sudden he's like, dude, these things, they're not going to go back down. Like, they're at
Stop right there. Stop right there. A video that's coming out this Saturday is titled, "No, R34s are not going to get cheaper when they are legal in the United States."
Yeah, we can go into that whole thing right after
That's
this.
a whole other.
But he was like, dude, they're not going to go down. And like, he's like, right now with the way the yen is and USD, like you can get one and it's going to be the best you can probably do right now, because it's not going to get a lot better than this. And I was like, man, you're right. But I'm looking at the price. I'm like, fuck, do I really want to do it? I literally told myself I will not ever do this. If it goes over 100, I'm not doing it. So then he was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I'll just still looking at it. All of a sudden, 2 weeks later, I bought it. I bought a R34 GTR. I'm like, what the heck, dude? You like did it. I thought we weren't going to do this. And then I'm like, man, now I have to buy one. Like, this is our goal and dream, is to get a 34 GTR and go to Japan and experience it.
So which kidney did you sell to do that?
At that time, like I said, I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I've built different businesses now. I have a trucking business, real estate investing company. I do government contracting. I have an esports business. I own a NASCAR team. I do public speaking engagements. I do all these different things. So at that time, I did have a little bit of a surplus of money. So I was like, hey, especially because the way the market was at that time with the different industries I was in, there was money to be made. So I did have some extra money. So I'm like, man, I like, if I don't get it now, it's only going to get more expensive, because I was trying to think that maybe it'll get cheaper. I'm like, it's not. So then I was like, I know, Jay, hey, you went through Top Rank. Top Rank's a great company, reputable company. A lot of people go through them. I know you went through that route and it's great, but I personally felt like there's other ways, right? Not saying that there's other ways that are going to be a lot better. I'm just saying there's just other ways, right? So I was like, that's great for you. I'm going to go my own route, because everything I do, I always go my own route. Like everything. I just don't follow anybody else. I just do my own thing. So I was like, let me go do my own research. Let me go find my own company. I don't want to find an American company. I like literally wanted to go find a company in Japan and go straight through them. So I went online, I immediately went to the auctions. I'm like, how am I going to do this auction thing? Like, if I win this thing, who's going to pick it up for me? So I was like, that's not going to work. But as I'm looking at the auctions, I saw a R34 GTR that I really liked a lot. And there's a company attached to it, and it said Space Auto. So I'm like, Space Auto? I was like, I never heard of them before. So I go to Google, type in Space Auto Japan, and this website comes up, and it's all in Japanese. I'm like, man, I can't speak Japanese or read Japanese. So then I click the translate button, and it translates everything to English. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I didn't realize you could do this. Now I can read it. Yeah, I was like, now I can read it. So then I'm reading the website, and I'm going through, and they have all these cars posted, beautiful cars, beautiful showroom floor. I'm like, this is really cool. Why have I never heard about this place? Like the only places I hear about is like Top Rank and what's those other places? Some of those other places on the East Coast or whatever. But I have never heard of them. But I'm like, I've never heard of them because they're not an American company. So then I go onto their contact page to contact them, and every other page on their website was translated to English except that one. It still stayed Japanese, and it wouldn't translate over. I'm like, how am I going to know where to put my name, email, phone number, contact, whatever? So I'm having to go copy paste over to a different page to keep on translate everything to figure it out. And it still wasn't working right because like, you know, like where it says for first name, like you translate it, it didn't say first name. It was saying something else. Like, you know, for last name, instead of saying last name, it was saying given name. I'm like, what's given name? Or what's surname? What's all? I'm like, what the heck? You know, so I'm trying to figure it out. I finally get it all figured out. I put in the right information. I'm like, hopefully someone responds to me. I was like, who knows? This English guy from freaking, you know, the US, like they might be like, who the heck is this? Anyways, 1 or 2 days later, I get a response, a long response, and it's in English. I'm like, holy crap, someone speaks English there. Come to find out, he's the only one who speaks English there. And he reaches out. He's like, hey, thank you so much for reaching out to us. You know, our dealership's in Hamamatsu, Japan. We're not near Tokyo. We're like 3 hours away. But this is really cool that you're interested in this car. We're actually very curious why you're interested in this car because, like, you know, you're in the US and this is like a 20-something-year-old car. Like, wow, why are you in love with this car? I'm like, because it's so cool and that's what we like here, you know, that's why. So I was like, I want to buy something from there. So he was like, the car you're looking at, it's nice. The 34 GTR I was looking at, it's nice. It's in good condition, really good car. Here's all the information. But we actually have an even better one with lower mileage. It had like 30,000 miles or so. I think 48,000 kilometers, and it's like a super nice, super clean, bone stock, nothing's done to it. But it was for, at that time, 16.2 million yen or something like that. So I did the conversion. I'm like, that's only $118,000. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, everywhere else I've seen. Well, only. Well, the reason I'm saying only because every other price I had seen for these things was 150, 160, 180, 200, all this stuff. I'm like, why is yours only, 118? I'm like, what the heck? So then, I'm like, hey, I need information on this car. I need to know everything about it. Like, he takes like 2 or 3 days. He emails me back and sends me a folder with 1 gigabyte worth of pictures and videos and everything, not only on the car, but like the dealership and everything, showing me around all that stuff. I'm like, holy crap, this is a lot of information. Every crack and crevice of the car showed me it all. I'm like, this is great. Like, thank you for that amazing service right there. And then, I kept on talking to him. We started working on it. I'm like, hey, I want to go to Japan and experience his car. So are you able to like basically make that happen? Like, yeah, we can register it. We can insure it. We can do this, do that, store it for you. Beautiful indoor facility, super nice. It's like a showroom, like storage area where like it's freaking nice. You could eat off the floor. It's so clean. And I'm like, man, that's super cool. So they gave me all the pricing and stuff. And when it was all said and done, I'm like, oh my God, like everything to store it, insure it, register it, do everything and buy the car. You put it all together was still cheaper than every other R34 GTR that I had seen out there. So I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, this is nice, So I'm like, going direct to his dealership was actually kind of nice. So anyways, I do it. And at first I was like, man, this is like a leap of faith. So hopefully everything is what it is. I send the money, I do all that stuff, and I hit up Jay. I'm like, Jay, I bought my R34 GTR. He's like, oh my God, what kind do you get? I'm like, it's literally identical to yours. It's a Sonic Silver, 1999, only 48,000 kilometers on it. The thing is brand new, freaking like just gorgeous. Me and him plan a trip from there and then go to Japan in November of 2022. And we were out there experiencing the Japanese car culture with our R34 GTRs. And when I say experiencing the Japanese car culture, we did everything from going to Daikoku. Yep. We went to Mines as well because I had always been in love with the Mines R34 GTR. So we went to Mines and had Mines installed titanium exhaust on my car in their shop. And for me, that was like one of the coolest things ever. Like childhood 1999 dream come true to see my car roll into Mines, have their guys pull out my stock exhaust, put their titanium exhaust in there to watch the whole thing happen. And by the way, they did it in 20 minutes, like 20 minutes to remove my exhaust and put this titanium exhaust in there. Shops over here in the US literally will hold your car for 3 days just to freaking put a cold air intake on it. These guys in 20 minutes, clean as can be, boom, 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 done.
Paul Walker did the same thing. He went to
yeah.
visit with Paul with two mines years ago.
The mines, yep. We went everywhere else. Went to Fuji, went to Fuji Speedway. We went to Top Secret. When we went to Top Secret, Smokey Nagata is there. He walks right out. And I'm looking at the guy because he had a mask on because you still had to have mask on at that time. Yeah. And I'm looking, I'm like, I think that's Smokey Nagata. And he's like, that is Smokey Nagata. And I walk up to him and he doesn't, really speak much English. So I had to use my translator app. I'm like, hey, we know you from the US. You're very popular. You're really cool. And we just wanted to say, hey. And he was like, thank you. And he takes a picture with us. So yeah, it was a super cool experience. And since then, I've been back to Japan 2 more times. I went through Tokyo Auto Salon. I went in May to do some toge driving and some other stuff. It's been a really, really cool experience being able to have this car in Japan and experience it there.
Man, it's a lot of fun. I'm going to go drive an Emner on the East Coast in September.
Yeah.
She invited me to go out there, and then I'm going to go to Tokyo Auto Salon, if not this next year, the year after.
You have to go. You have to go this next time. Like it is epic.
In 2003, RJ DeVera and I went to Valeside in up in Scuba area, right?
Yeah, yep.
So Yokomako, he did the body kits for Too Fast, Too Furious cars, the wide body MRSs, the S2000s, and there's other cars.
RX-7.
That was Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
So 2 and 3. So we went up there after that, and we hung out with them for like 5 days. We went up to Scuba the track, and we literally in the shop, Yokomako, Valeside. It was a giant showroom. They had their HKS cars in there. The R30. I think it was an R34 and an R32 that they had built, and it was in the show. The place was like a candy store. Yeah. It looks like a jewelry store, but with car parts.
Yeah.
Titanium mufflers hanging on the walls, everything with that, pegboard kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing. So, and then the next time I saw him was on a video, I don't know, about 7 years ago. They were building another wide body FD, and now the garage is the showroom. They don't have a showroom anymore because, after, this was before COVID, I think it was. But the market kind of fell out. Remember 2008 for JDM stuff?
Which is crazy because now all those companies, I think even wasn't HKS like struggling too at some point, and
they closed one of their warehouses in New Jersey, or maybe that was Goretti. Goretti's still around. They're right down the road from me, 15 minutes from me.
Yeah. But now like the market just skyrocketed again, and now they're wanting all these. They want all the Japanese stuff, right? They want Goretti, they want HKS, they want all of it. Like it's going back up. And the funny thing is, when you go to Japan, they're not even as in tune to what we're wanting as you would think. Like you would think that like they're like, oh yeah, the Americans, man, they really want all this stuff. They don't even don't know. They're like, what y'all want? What again for which car? This 30-year-old what? Like it's interesting.
Having working with Japanese companies, I can tell you this. The Japanese people, I respect them immensely. They came from a broken nation to a power so forceful. In 1980s, everybody was screaming that the Japanese are going to take over the United States.
Oh, they were powerful. In the 80s, they were like on the crazy up and up. Yeah.
With cameras and VCRs and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But seeing them work in the factories and see their commitment to quality, I think it's one of the best countries in the world, if not the best.
Because they have honor. They have honor.
They do.
That is the root thing right there. Is I think it's a family thing. It comes from just straight just learning from home. Like they have honor, and that's the one thing here in the U.S. there's not enough of. The reason why we've derailed in so many different ways. We've had all the issues from all the different things. I don't go into politics and stuff, but all the different things that go on from you see these mass shootings and this and that, all this stuff that happens. It goes straight back to what are people learning at home? Like, are parents able to get their kids to learn the basic morals of life, right? And is there honor? And too many people lie, cheat, steal. The honor isn't enough here. Like over there, you can tell, like it's ingrained in them. Like that's why every time they see each other, I mean, they come to attention, they're bowing, they're doing all this. I mean, there's like legit honor there.
Yep, I remember I was living in there for about 9 months where they were training me on the oxygen sensors, that kind of stuff. And I started to learn the ways and started to adopt their, bowing and all that kind of stuff. And my trade translator was a lady by the name Reiko. They treated her like a tea servant. That was the traditional woman role, even in the company. But she taught me a lot. She said, if you drop your wallet, and if it has thousands of dollars in it, in the middle of Tokyo, you will get that wallet back with all the money. How do you know that? This is what this country is about. It's about honor. And you go through that country, there's no graffiti, there's no crime that you see. Most of the crime is white collar or, Yakuza kind of stuff, which you don't see.
Yeah, there's always going to be a few bad apples somewhere, right? Because there's some people whose wires naturally are just twisted. Like no matter what, bad is what they do. That's just what they do. You'll never change that anywhere in the world. But majority, though, you look at majority, like I think the honors, and even the people who are bad, they have honor still.
I went through a lot of car factories, including Chrysler, Ford, Nissan in Tennessee, Lexus is in Japan, Toyota in Japan, Honda in Marysville, Ohio, when I was working for them. You can see the difference between American workers, and this is the mid-90s, against the Japanese workers in the mid-90s. The Japanese like robots. Yeah. They stay all day. And if
all day.
there's a movie I want you to watch from the 1980s. Write it down. It's called Gung Ho.
Gun Ho?
Gung Ho, like Marines. Gung Ho.
Oh, gotcha.
It's about Michael Keaton working in a Japanese car factory in the United States. I was basically doing that job for the last 2 years of my tenure with that company, working with the Japanese executives as a liaison between American workers and Jappers and sub-suppliers, American sub-suppliers. Like the Japanese guys tend to fall asleep, the older guys. They're not sleeping. They're just listening to you and digesting. To my point, Japanese people tend to do a lot of analysis. Before making a decision. And it's very important to them that they want to consider it, all of it. It's almost like meditation. So that's one thing that frustrated Americans. But I think maybe we can use a little bit of that here, because imagine if a keyboard warrior is somebody's talking some crap and say, and you just cool it off and all that kind of thing. Because basically, all of us car people are in the same boat, right? We all love this hobby. We're looking at the end of it, that these are the sunset years. Soon we're going to be in soulless electric cars, which will be actually faster. And
well, this is the thing, though. So a year ago, I thought that would probably be the case. But now I think there's been a lot of improvements on this synthetic fuels, e-fuel kind of thing or whatever, where I believe there's companies putting enough dollars and cents and energy into it. And also some of these politicians now are starting to understand that we don't have the infrastructure anywhere near ready right now to support here in 10 years, basically going full electric. So this e-fuel thing with these synthetic fuels, I think that is the next big wave. So where we'll be able to retain our combustion motors. Because if you see, there's been in the last 6 months, there's been a lot of folks, in DC and everything, taking a step back, being like, okay, I know we said we're going to do this, but we can't. And we probably will need to have some type of combustion fuel engines and engines and electric engines. We're going to have to figure out how to make it all work, but we definitely can't do all of one. It's just not,
Solar and wind is not going to do it. Nuclear power will have to come back.
Well, even nuclear. Right now, we've been shutting nuclear stuff down. I'm like,
Well, the thing of it is, there's 35 million people in California. Was it last summer? I think it was last summer. They were telling us to turn off our air conditioners in the afternoon. And what are people going to do? Just don't use any electricity after 4. How are these people going to charge their cars?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
If you want us to drive into the city, I just came back from Belgium. If you go into Brussels with a car 10 years old or older, you have to pay $30 to get into the city.
It's crazy.
They don't want gasoline cars polluting the air, which the air is perfectly clear there. Secondly, 40% of the planet is still burning coal in the form of cow dung. India and China. China builds a new coal plant every week, literally every week.
Crazy.
So we're not there yet. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
all for, saving the planet from whatever kind of pollution.
It's the global warming thing and all that. But then the funny thing, I've been actually doing some research recently on this global warming, like what was really driving that. And I don't know if this is the full reason, but I do believe that it's one of the reasons. If you look at over where Greenland is, and basically in that whole Arctic area, it's always been ice. And now that a lot of it's melting off, there's actually becoming these passageways which are a lot better for shipping traffic. So instead of going the normal shipping routes that we've gone through, we can actually have an easier route to get to different places through there. Now there's this big battle for, like, even, China's trying to step in, the US, all this stuff to fight for those passageways. Russia, everybody, they're all stepping in trying to do that. And I believe what was happening before was people were trying to create or stop this passageway from happening, so we didn't have to go defend on another front. But the inevitable happened, and now it's melting off, and now there is passageways, and now it's like the U.S. is like, crap, now we got to extend into the Arctic. Now we're over here, we're there, and now we got to go fight over there.
It's 1941 all over again. China is basically Japan now. Remember, you're a Navy guy, you know the whole story, right? And fighting for the rights of waterways.
Yeah,
right. And for resources, right? If everybody would just sit back down in their chair and say, you can use it right now. We're not stopping you. Just keep going. And you too, China, come on through. Come on. I know you need to get your lumber and all that other stuff. Come on.
If everybody would just work together. But the thing is, everybody wants to be dominant.
Just chill.
Just chill. Take a chill pill.
Just chill. There's enough to go around. We want Chinese people not to be eating their own shoes. We want to improve their economy. And the next continent that they're going to pirate, I should say, is Africa.
Yeah, that's already kind of been going on. There's been a lot of influence over there, a lot of influence. And it's kind of unfortunate how things are happening and we're all like seeing it. And then crazy thing is it's all going to wait until things explode. And all of a sudden then it's going to be like, oh, a big deal. It's like, man, we're seeing what's going on. It's not right how it's going on. I mean, I feel like, if a country's going to come in and support, it needs to be not a predatory support, but
right. The loans and all that kind of stuff. So let's go back to cars for a moment. We now, in my lifetime, I have seen the end of leaded gasoline. Back in the 1970s, when the oil embargo happened, at the same time, they stopped making leaded gas. So all the V8s of that era, 73, 74, 75, got low compression motors. The Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am made 165 horsepower with 6.6 liters, right? My wife's Audi 2017 S3 has a 2.0 engine with the turbo making 290 horsepower. With 4 cylinders, it gets 36 miles to the gallon on the freeway. Yeah. And those other beasts were doing 5 miles a gallon, right? 6 miles a gallon, something like that. That's progress. That's definitely progress. But if I have to take a 100-foot extension cord with my car every time I drive it, I don't think that's progress. I'm sorry. No. And what are they going to do with all these batteries? I remember going through I remember being a little boy and we went to the grocery store and they said, okay, you can't use paper bags anymore. You have to use plastic. And why? It's better for their environment. And even at 10 years old, I was like, no, it's not. You ever try to tear one of those things apart? Yeah. Never. If you get a grocery brown bag wet on the bottom in one spot, everything falls through. So sometimes, I mean, there's all these agendas, political agendas. I just want to drive cars. That's all I want. Cool cars. That's all I want. Now, I want to make cool cars, cool car noises, without having to put speakers on the outside of the car. That's one thing too as well.
I'm all for hybrid cars. I'm cool with hybrid, like a little bit electric, a little bit of combustion. Cool. I just don't want to ever go full electric. For whatever reason, that's not my style, but it has to have some type of combustion motor. You got to hear it. You got to feel it and all that stuff. Right.
The new Dodge that's coming out, the rear view mirror and the side view mirrors rumble electronically to simulate rev idle of a V8, and to me, that's like stuff in your bra. Okay, it's just not right. I don't feel good about this. I don't feel good where we're going.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize that. It's something you take for granted, right? Like if you're in a big V8 car, it's just normally. Wow, I didn't even think about that. That's crazy. Yeah, because I guess if you if it was making the sound, but then you didn't have these vibrations, then something would feel off, I guess. So yeah, they took it in consideration. I don't know. Maybe there's a way to make electric cars have their own distinct sound.
They're working on that.
Vibration, rumble. Yeah, something like that. Just like a, sequential transmission has its own sound, with the dog, with the, being like a dog box and all that stuff.
There's a manufacturer making a simulated manual transmission for a hybrid. And that is like stuffing a roll of quarters in your pants. That's what I'm thinking.
There's a simulated
manual transmission.
Yeah.
Like it really, okay. In 2011, I did a program from Acura, the introduction of the ILX, which was a weird car, nice car, but a weird car. And they gave it it has a CVT, but with paddle shifters. A CVT is basically is a rubber band.
Yeah.
But you can shift gears, but it's not gears. It just moves the cog, jerk with a jerk.
That's what I'm saying. Like each time you shift, like the point of shifting, there is a little bit of a jerk. There's a little bit of something, but there's like this momentary, like this very fine momentary lapse, and then power ramps up again. Like that's what is cool. So how do you do it in an electric car? Like, do you just pause and then I don't know. That's kind of weird.
I don't know.
We'll see how it works.
Like I said, we were in the sunset years of some of these greatest cars. So as I tell my young viewers, if you are serious about getting one of these great cars, you better do whatever you have to do to get the money legally to go out and buy these cars, because they're not going to get cheaper.
Yeah, they're definitely not.
On that note, let's talk about when the floodgates open 2024 for the GTR. Another 2023, the GTTs could start coming over, and people are doing that right now.
Yeah, the GTTs, I think. Well, some of them started becoming legal in May, I believe, or something like that. Yeah, and then people are starting to bring those over. Well, this is a funny thing, though. I'm on different forums and all that stuff. I'm seeing a lot of people have. It's so funny. They're becoming legal, and I'm seeing a lot of requests for people. Like, people are wanting to get them, but they're wanting to get ones that are already landed here. And now, it's July, so maybe some of them have gotten here, but they're really kind of just asking for ones that have already been here. And in my mind, I'm like, guys, like, why are you setting yourself up for a potentially bad deal? Like, if they're just get one from Japan that can come over here, it'll take, a month to get over here. You got to do your paperwork, this and that, but then you're legal, because anything you buy that was here prior to when they were legal is not legal still. It doesn't mean that once they became legal, all of them are legal now. Like, maybe for the rest of your life, you'll probably never have any issue. But if somebody gets caught up who's been bringing these things in illegal and they start tracking people, last thing you want is a year or 2 years from now, your investment that you put in 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 grand in, to have someone show up at your door and be like, give me your car right now.
Right. 400 titles were confiscated in Florida. They were canceled.
Yeah. And all it takes is somebody who's been, somebody to get caught up. And like, people, once again, they'll be like, oh, well, no, it'll never happen to me. Well, sometimes people aren't getting caught up because what they're doing. Like, the same people just have really bad habits, and all of a sudden they're not paying their taxes, or they're not doing this, or they're not doing that. And then that's what starts the search. So all of a sudden this person didn't pay their taxes, and all of a sudden IRS starts looking to them. And then one thing after another starts happening. And all of a sudden that leads towards, by the way, they were registering X amount of cars illegally, or bringing them into the country, or this and that. And all of a sudden it just becomes this huge bust. It's hardly ever the government's just going to look for these illegal cars coming in. It's somebody is screwing up on something very small to the government, and then that starts the train roll. So just don't get yourself caught up. Like, buy the cars legally. Like, get the ones in Japan, ship it over, spend that money, do that, unless it came over here legally, like in the last 2 months. Right. But if it didn't, be smart.
So when the 2024 embargo is over, right? What do you think are going to happen with R34 GTRs? What do you think people are going to be paying for a decent, clean R34 GTR? These cars are stored outside, mostly because there's no garages in Japan. It's an island nation. Everybody's pretty close to the water, the saltwater area, all that kind of stuff. A lot of people smoked in these cars, because everybody in Japan pretty much smoked for a long, long, long time. And that's just only getting smaller, really noticeably now. Mm-hmm. But back, I remember going in 2003, every place smelled like an ashtray.
Yeah. You could smoke. Yeah, and that nowadays, like mainly in the cities, you can't smoke indoors anymore. But outside the cities, you still can, which is crazy. So like, there's a few times where I've gone outside the city and like going to a restaurant and people are smoking. I'm like, what the heck? So, but yeah, no, for pricing and stuff for these 34s, they're going to continue to go up now. Between right now and some point next year, I don't think there's going to be a major hike, but there's going to be this slow hike, slowly. And then what people don't understand is a lot of people think of it like this. They're like, oh, the prices aren't going to go up because, people who already bought the cars, and that's it. So now, if they're trying to sell it, well, the only people left over are people who don't have that big money, and the only people, and if you're going to sell and you want to sell, you got to sell to basically whoever the market is, which are people who don't have that much money. But what I keep on telling people, I'm like, that's not the case. This is why every single year new money comes in. Like 3 years ago, I could not afford an R34 GTR. Last year when I bought one, I could. I became that new money in 2022. Right. So in 2020, if people were looking at, oh man, people who had the money got it now, and the only people left are people without money, so you gotta have to sell it for cheaper. I'm like, no. You can wait a year until I had the money, and then boom, you bought it. And then next year, there's gonna be somebody else who their business is doing really well, and they got the money now. There's somebody else who got this job and they got the money now. Every single year, new money comes in who is going to replace the people who don't have the money, and the prices will continue to go up and up and up. Somebody will finally come into a year where they have the money to achieve their dreams. So that's why I keep telling people, don't think that what's bought's already bought and the people who had a lot of money, that's it. Like there's nobody else in the world left with money. No, somebody else next year is going to be a millionaire.
For me, I've been looking at the auctions and I see everybody in Japan knows, all these exporters know that the price that till 2024 they're legal here. So these guys are buying these cars up, and what they're paying for them in Japan is going up.
Yeah,
so the landed price has to go up. Mm-hmm. So I was in my video, I was saying that $150,000 is probably going to be the minimum for a halfway decent car with decent miles on it, and no major repairs, no major rust, no excuse kind of car. Just 25 years of normal age, that kind of thing. That you're paying 150 plus the registration and transportation and all that. So you're going to be in for 170 grand, something like that. And that kind of money, I mean, there's a lot of cars you can buy, that are better performers.
Yes. So going onto that topic, yes. So there are a lot of cars at 150, 160 that you can buy that, like you can get, I'm a huge Chevy guy, so C8, Z06, right? You get that. For mine was a little less than 150, but still, it's an amazing car all the way around. I mean, run circles around my R34 GTR and my R32 GTR all day long. 30 million times, right? Amazing vehicle. Yes, there are better performing cars. You get an R35, you can get an R8, you can get a whatever, this and that. You get all these different things. This is the thing though. When I went and drove my 34, it did not seem like an old car. And one of the things that I noticed the most was when I closed the door. In my 32, when I closed the door with a little bit of force, like I feel like my window is gonna shatter. It's just like the vibration or whatever. I feel it's because it's a 91 car, right? It's like it just feels like that's gonna happen. Whereas my 34, I remember the first time I closed the door, it's just with the rubbers and all that stuff and the what is it called? Seals and all that stuff. The way it's just smoother how it closed. I'm like, this feels like a modern car now. Like it feels good. And I know a lot of people say, oh, you'll be so disappointed in the performance. No, you're not. Like you do some minor things to the car actually is still quick and it's still a good car. It's not a 10-second car. It's not a Hellcat or a Demon or a C8 Z06 or C7 Z06. It's not that. No, but it's still a quick car. So you do just maybe suspension change, get the right wheels on it, and exhaust.
BPU.
Yeah. Just basic stuff. The car comes alive. I mean, that car, I could drive that all day long and not ever feel like, oh my God, I have an underperforming car. That's not it at all.
And it's not about being a 10-second car. It's about driving the car that you lusted after for 20 years playing Gran Turismo, right? That's what was
exactly. I mean, back, I first got introduced to the car through Gran Turismo 2 back in '99, and then Need for Speed Underground and Need for Speed Underground 2, and then Forza, all these games. That's kind of how I got introduced to this. And once you finally get it, and once again do some minor bolt-on stuff, nothing too crazy, the car does come alive, and it is a respectable car with respectable speed and respectable handling. Like, I've driven around the togeis in Japan, and I'll put up against a lot of cars today.
It's funny you mentioned the Need for Speed underground car, and Need for Speed hired us to put together that car. The one, the Eddie's cars, we built a real one for him.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
That car. So that was the second one I had driven. I drove another one when I was in Japan, 2003. And then I didn't drive another one until, recently. The Paul Walker borrowed Skyline.
You had that for last year or the year before, 2021, I think.
Not last summer, the summer before.
So 2021.
So drove that, and then I drove the just driven R33, which I really like because I think cars makes about 1,000 horsepower or something crazy like that. And I fell in love with the R33 again. These cars are just a very, very special if you're a JDM guy.
And the the cool thing is, so here's the other question too. People always ask, they're like, a 34 is just a newer 32. I'm like, you are completely out of your mind if you believe that. Like, the 34 is way more refined than the 32, and I love my 32. It's amazing. My 32. My 32 will run circles around my 34 because it makes 675 horsepower, big single turbo, sequential transmission. Like, it's a beast of a car. But the 34 34 stock compared to 32 stock will run worlds around it. I mean, it's just that transmission makes a massive difference. That 6-speed transmission, I did not realize how big of a difference that is from the 5-speed that you get in the 32 and the 33 to the 6-speed you get in the R34. That literally is the difference in performance in that car. And just because the gearing so much more aggressive, so much better, the power delivery is like very, very linear. Like, it doesn't feel like you got turbos. It feels like you got just good, solid, supercharged power in a way. There is a big difference between 34, 33, and 32. They're not comparable. They all do different things. The 32 is great for what it is, but the 34 it's a better car in a lot of different ways. It's just a more modernized car.
And if you're a younger person who can't afford $170,000, there's no shame in that. Everybody starts somewhere.
32, 33.
But just remember this: you could probably get an R32 for what you would pay for a decent Dodge product or a Camaro ZL1.
Right now. I mean, I don't know what the ZL1 prices are for Camaros, but ZL1s are amazing, by the way. I drove a ZL1 on track last year, and it was love that car. I mean, ZL1 used, you can get 50 to 60 grand right now. Used, solid car. 32 GTR, you're going to be 40 to 60 in that range.
Depends on where you buy it, right?
Yeah, where you buy it from, how clean it is, mileage, all that stuff. So, great car. The thing is, at the end of the day, for these cars, buy it because you love it. Don't buy it because you want to. Definitely don't buy it if it's your only car. Do not do that, or you will hate yourself. But buy it because you love it. Don't buy it for clout. Don't buy it because it's a cool thing to do. Buy it because you love it, or else you'll be one of the complainers on the sidelines saying, "Oh, blah blah blah, this and that."
It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. It doesn't have cruise control. It doesn't do this.
Control, AC might work, might not work, whatever.
Whatever it is. Anyway, well, that was fantastic. I think you and I are both on the same page. We have the same love of these cars, and we have the same respect for the background and where we're going to go. We realize that it has got to be progress, but we hope it happens intelligently.
Intelligently, yes. No GTR badges on GTTs, please.
Yeah.
I had to throw that in there. Hey, GTR police all day. No. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody has their own cars. Everyone can do whatever the heck they want to do with their car, right? But there's a respect thing, right? And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who work very, very hard to get a GTT. GTST, whatever. You worked very hard to get there. There's a lot of people who worked hard too as well to get a GTR. Respect what you got. If you got something, like, have some honor with it, have some pride with what you got. Don't throw a badge on a car so that you can look this other way. If you want to throw the body parts on, you want to throw, the fenders, the rear quarter, this and that, front bumper, whatever you want to do, that that's completely cool. But when you put a different badge on it, you are now trying to certify that that car is something that it's not, and it's fake, it's fraudulent, and it's not right. Don't do it. And it's not. And people say, oh, the Skyline community is getting toxic. It's not getting toxic. This is in any other community. In my Chevy community, like if I see someone with a base model C6 and they throw a ZR1 badge on it, you better believe I'm coming up to them and saying something. Like, don't do that crap. Like, respect what you have some honor and respect for yourself as a human being, and don't put the wrong badges on your car. Be proud of what you got, flaunt what you got, but don't be acting like you got something that you don't. Don't put the wrong badge on it. It's fake, it's fraudulent, and it's not right.
And frankly, when I see people convert a GTT to a GTR, including with the motor, I respect that way more than
cool.
just writing a check for a GTR.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very respectable to be able to do that, to put the effort in and to get it done right, to throw the RB26 in, to, put all the right panels on there, by the way. And people who go as far as all-wheel drive and the 6-speed transmission, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, a GTT is still a GTT. You can put every single thing on there, but the one thing, this is what designates a car as a certain car, the chassis code, right? The VIN number. The VIN number will always be on a GTT an ER34 or whatever else, right? On a GTR, it's going to be a BNR34. So that is something you can never change, right? So a GTT will never be a GTR. So be cool with that. It's okay. Like be proud of what you got. I like the GTTs. I think they're cool. I actually want to get one and turn it into a drift car. But one thing I won't do is throw a GTR badge on it. I don't care what motor I got in there, whatever. You just don't do that, right? Be what you got, respect it, and be proud of it.
Yeah, if you're driving a 32 or a 33 and it's just a GST or whatever, I'm still envious because I drove a piece of crap when I was that age.
Yeah. Those things are still good cars. The RB25 is a solid motor. I mean, they're solid cars. Just be proud of what you got. This badge stuff that's people throwing the wrong badges on is, and then it comes into a thing. People are like, oh, well, my car came with a badge. And then, well, you can take the badge off. It's not permanent. You can take it off and do the right thing, right?
Here's a piece of dental floss. Yeah.
Yeah. You can there's a Skyline S badge that you can put on there. Put that on, right? People are saying, oh, I don't want it to have a gap there. Okay, then put the S on there. Oh, well, it doesn't look good. Well, then don't have anything on. I don't know, but don't put the wrong thing on there.
Yeah. Well, you've got some great stories. I hope everybody wants to follow you on your Instagram here. It's right here in the box at Jesse_Iwuji. Follow him. He does a lot of fun car stuff, and he's definitely one of us, just a diehard car guy. And he's got the right attitude and the experience to take him to the next level, I hope, right? So what are we going to see you doing next?
Yeah, no. So NASCAR is that's my thing, right? So that's what I do. I'm a big NASCAR guy. Chevy, we're a part of the Chevy family. So we have a Chevy Camaro SS as a vehicle that we race in NASCAR. We have 6 of them. And it's not a street car. It's a race car. It's nothing to do with street cars. These are 2 chassis cars with a body on it that looks like a Chevy. But yeah.
Can we go through McDonald's
drive-through?
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean,
that'd be a great video.
In Texas, probably, because
you can do anything. It's the wild west there, man.
Yeah. That would be a good video. That'd be fun. Only if I can get some chain restaurant to become one of our sponsors, we'll make that happen.
We'll find a barbecue.
Guaranteed, yeah. But what we got coming up next is we're working on some more races. This year we're not running a full-time season. We ran into some funding issues sponsorship wise last year that kind of bled over into this year. So right now we're working on finding additional partnerships so we can get back to eventually running full-time. Our goal is to get to that point in 2024. So we're just grinding away right now. But we're working on running a few more races this year. And as we put those together, we'll announce those on our team page, Jesse Iwuji Motorsports. And we'll put that information out. We'll announce it on my personal page too as well. But the NASCAR thing is definitely a grind. I got into this whole ownership thing almost 2 years now ago. And last year was our first full season. And Emmitt Smith, Hall of Fame running back, is one of my partners.
Dallas Cowboys, right?
Go Cowboys. Yep.
Yeah,
Go Cowboys. Yep.
That's how old I am.
Yeah. So, we were actually just with them at the Chicago street course race that we just had a couple weeks ago. So, yeah. So we're just continuing to grow everything. We got some great people who are part of our program. We got 2 other owners too as well. are with us. My agent, Matt Casto, has been absolutely amazing. He's one of our co-owners as well. We just continue to grind every single day so that we can continue to grow our program that we have. Our team's based in Mooresville, North Carolina, and we actually just recently opened up a street car division so we can actually start working on people's street cars. So doing small stuff right now, and we're going to slowly work it up to more. But eventually, who knows? Maybe Jesse Iwuji Performance, which is our performance side, will be building, who knows, some crazy, Camaros, Corvettes, GTRs, whatever, one of these days.
As long as they exist. Anyway, thanks for coming on. I hope to see you at Cars and Coffee again another time.
Yeah.
When you're back in town and you go, let me know, and I'll definitely make it there and hang out with you, all you cool kids.
Cool.
All right, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.